Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Let's Talk About the League podcast, the only podcast on the internet that you can find all of your news about the LCUS. This week, I'm just joined by Commissioner Sig, and we're just going to go over some questions that are asked on a regular basis and the rules. Well, not all the rules, but questions on the rules as well. How are you doing, Sig?
I'm fantastic, Ace. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Happy to get these questions out of the way so that we can answer even better ones during the podcast for the next split.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm hyped.
yeah, that's for sure. Um, so just to get this out of the way as a little disclaimer before we start going over the stuff, here at the LCUS, all of our choices are really designed for player enjoyment and simplicity of. It's pretty rough to get 30 to 40 people together on, a weekly basis and have things go smoothly. So we try to keep things as simple as possible, as enjoyable for everyone involved. With that, I think Sig is going to start us off with one of the questions.
Great. Well, we did receive the question: does the LCUS have any future exciting plans? Oh yes. Short yes. Long. Currently, we're working to look into a lot of options. We appreciate all the options that you guys are wanting and all the opinions and feedback that you're giving. Please hit up Facebook, go fill out those opinions and feedback form. That lets us know what you want so we can make changes and adapt. But in the future, what exactly are we looking to do? A lot. We'd love to incorporate a highlight reel. That's been a high request from a lot of our players. For us to do that, we need your highlights. To this point, last split, we did implement a system where you could submit your highlights to us, but we really haven't received any yet. So if you want to start sending your highlights to us from the LCUS games, and if anybody wants to step up and start putting these together, we would really appreciate that. Just reach out to us and let us know. Also, we did launch a really great anonymous feedback tool, so please check that out, fill it out. That is anonymous, and that gives us honest feedback. You don't have to worry about us trying to grill you about, because I mean we wouldn't in the first place. But this is a safe place to give your feedback.
Yeah, definitely. We're open to questions directly, feedback directly, all that stuff. But in case you're not comfortable with that, definitely use that tool. Another question that we received multiple times was, will the LCUS ever have all-star voting? But yeah, so for that, most of the time when we send out our Google Forms for people to submit, like for the Skin Showdown, the pre-split 3 pick'em, we don't get much of a response for it, so it's kind of a buzzkill for us when we want to put so much work into things like an all-star vote. And just have like 8 or 10 people fill it out of the 50 that are really involved. But it's definitely a thought for the future. We're looking into how to do it and how to have it be like a fun event. But for now, I don't think we're going to implement that for Split 3. Another question related to that also was, do we have any plans to do an end of Split award show? Something like stats, most kills, also MVPs at the positions. So we don't really plan to do something like that. We make an infographic that we publish after the finals with most of the main stats from the split. Also, in the future, we'll be publishing the stats probably weekly on a Google sheet that everyone will be able to view if they're into looking at spreadsheets. But most of the stats aren't a surprise when it comes to like MVP voting. So, unless we do start to do something like split performance or split to split improvement, it's probably just a better use of time just to look at the graphic.
Next question would be, how is the LCUS looking to expand its player base? Well, it's hard to say exactly what the correct level of expansion is. We've noticed that super dedicated players tend to thrive, do really well in the LCUS, and expanding to people that might not have the same investment level as some of those more dedicated players, they do lead to that mid-split replacements being needed. They lead to the entire team really being pulled down with them. So we want those high dedicated players, and we want that kind of growth. But with our limited time for matches on Sundays, those are some of the reasons that we hadn't started like going to Reddit, maybe paying for some Facebook advertising, looking for new players, because controlled growth is really healthy for us, and it's really healthy for you too in terms of player environment. But again, we really want those passionate players. So if you know some people that you play with on a regular basis that are good communicators, very involved, let them know. Let them know about us. Send them the link to the Google form, and we would love to have them.
Definitely, I completely agree with that. A few of the players in the LCUS, including myself, played in a tournament league before this. And things really started to go downhill when they opened it up to the public, like completely. The team's elos all got pushed super high because there's tons of diamond and platinum players out there looking to get in, and that pushed all the lower elo players out there because unless you're a pro player, you're definitely replaceable on a team. Then they tried to expand it even more, adding different days in. That didn't really work for the players that were like really involved and committed in the league. And then also when you open up to public, there's tons of players that don't care at all, that just are smurfing, trying to show up on stream. And it really created a toxic environment for the management that I can only assume put in as much time as we're putting into the LCUS, if not more. Which made them kind of shut it down. And we're really hoping to keep the LCUS running for a while, so we want to make sure that we have the players here that are committed and care about it, more so than just the highest elo players around. But I definitely see where they came from doing that. Every once in a while, when we're looking for 1 or 2 AD carries or a mid laner to join the league, it's definitely tempting to post on Reddit looking for that.
And that's just about filling up the teams, because there are more demanding, more positions that we have demand for, like top lane, super high demand. Now, part of that though is, are we sticking with 7 teams again like we did in Split 3, or are we going to be bouncing up to 8? Are buys going away? All of that has to do with team balancing. Bye weeks shouldn't be as bad as they are, but when you throw holidays in with them, it really increases the length of the split to where it doesn't lose its competitive edge, but it does become more taxing. Because we want our dedicated players to feel that investment, and one split lasting 3 months, it's just very difficult for that hard commitment there. And that happens. Bye weeks happen when we have an odd number of teams. So if we have 7 teams, there will be bye weeks. Now, we're looking for like 6 or 7 teams for the next split until we find a solution that can handle timing issues. With us having 6 teams, that's 3 sets. That's 2v2v2. The 7th team, that's where those bye weeks come in. Until we can find a solution that really solves that issue, there's not really a way for us to implement or grow past that. The LCUS, we have a great set of casters. I absolutely appreciate so much what Kinos, Nickel, Jeff, all the guest casters that we've had have done for us, but it's super taxing on, say, Kinos, who some of these nights end up going casting for 6 games, which can be up to 6 hours. It's a lot of time for a Sunday, and it's just logistically not really something that we can push even farther on top of organizing with 40 players. So we would love to see some change, but right now we do need to control that.
Yeah, a lot of players right now even work Sundays and try to get off work early for when they have the early games. And if you add another 2 teams in there and you don't want to have any bye weeks, suddenly you're playing games from like 3:30 in the afternoon to like 11:30 at night. And then you're just working. There will be a lot more subs players in situations like that. The next question, and a question we've also gotten a lot, is would the LCUS look at doing draft picks for the main split? So we're considering it, especially with the feedback. We really appreciate that. But one of the large negatives for drafting is that the later draft picks aren't really considered by team captains. Captains either draft the best player available, which you can't blame them for, or their friends, which you also can't blame them for. But then the later picks just kind of get thrown in as an afterthought. With our focus in the LCUS of having every player matter, having players want to play with their friends, drafting just doesn't really fit at this time. We really wouldn't want the last draft picks to get thrown onto a team with nobody they know in a role they don't play. That wouldn't be good. But this is also one of the reasons why we have gym class feeders and even King of the Hill. It lets us see how captain draft or pre-made teams, position swaps, or anything like that would affect the regular LCUS games. So when we post for gym class feeders or King of the Hill or anything like that, make sure you sign up that we can really see how a draft might actually work well in the LCUS. Follow up on this question as well. Maybe this would help a little bit with people's concerns when it comes to how teams are formed. This is how we really focus on team balance as the first priority, followed by keeping players playing with their friends, and then also keeping old teams together or quote storylines. So we really are just trying to focus on those three main things, with balance being the number one priority.
The next thing that's been brought up a lot is player commitment. I'd mentioned earlier that we really want committed players. As we develop these teams and looking at ability, role, position, we take player commitment just as seriously as any of those other statistics when we're building our teams. The goal of the LCUS was to be more casual and not to really force anyone into practicing. Players should take time to work with their team to find a balance, and that comes through communication. To figure out exactly what your level of commitment is. You can be a committed player and not volunteer all your time to the LCUS. A committed player is someone that communicates effectively with their team, goes in with a positive attitude, and takes defeat with the same attitude they would have lost. When we talk about player commitment, that's ultimately what we want, and we appreciate each and every player that shows that level of commitment to themselves, to the teams, and to the LCUS as a whole.
Definitely. And with that, we're going to have a quick break and come right back with a word from our sponsors. And this episode is brought to you by you guys. Once again, we're really looking for YouTube subscribers so we can get our URL for our channel. During the next few weeks, every YouTube sub that we get, Sig and myself will be donating $1 to the Special Olympics, the Foundation to Decrease World Suck, and Make-A-Wish Foundation, as well as White Wolf Gaming also helping us with those donations. So that really would help us out, help out a charity, and be a great thing all around. So once again, please make sure to subscribe to our channels. And we're back. This time we're going to be focusing on the rules. So the first question coming in targeted at the rules is, will position swaps ever happen in the LCUS? In our opinion, fixed positions are critical for keeping pick and ban exciting and important. We don't really see that going away in the future. However, we do encourage players and teams to explore new and exciting strategies when it comes to any and every meta.
And it makes a healthy environment for everyone. So we really appreciate that question. Another question that we received was, I really like the idea of higher seeds choosing their opponents in the playoffs. I know it's been suggested before. Are we going to do this? Well, it's up for consideration. We don't think that this is an urgent improvement that we want to make, but this will be in our implementation strategy, possibly going forward into future splits.
Yeah. And the next question was that a few players are worried about ending up on a team with a player that they don't really get along with, and that could cause some toxicity both inside the LCUS and outside the LCUS. So we're really hoping that would never happen. We hope everyone in the league gets along great, but of course that's not possible. But the LCUS is for fun, and we hope no one is taking it serious enough to create real issues between each other. Player chemistry is definitely taken into account when we're creating teams, and if any issues arise in the teams, we definitely encourage teams to bring it to the attention of the officials prior to flaming each other. Most issues can just be resolved simply, but if it can't be, please bring it to us, and we'd love to find a resolution there.
Yeah, we're always happy to moderate. Just keep us in the know about issues in team, and maybe between you and someone on another team. We hope that never happens, of course. Now, another question that come up is split length. With regards to split length, as opposed to addressing a particular question, just to explain, it's a balance for us of making each game matter for both the winning teams and the losing teams. We look a lot of the different factors when it comes to making a schedule. While doing a double round robin sounds like an amazing idea for teams that are doing well, for some teams it only takes 2 or 3 games before you give up on the whole split. We want excitement for every player to continue from game 1, day 1, all the way to finals. We want that level of investment. We want that level of excitement. And with the model that we have right now, we're split lane.
Another question that we've received a few times is that players should be allowed to do whatever it takes to achieve victory in the LCUS. I hope they don't mean ghosting, cheating, scripting, any of that stuff, DDoSing the opponents. But taking the question a little bit, in context, that's the reason why we have gym class feeders and King of the Hill, for you to play whatever you want, wherever you want, with whoever you want. But the LCUS exists to provide more of a professional feeling tournament and an opportunity for more structure, for pick bands to be fun, you to focus on new roles, and all of that. So we don't really see that we want to let players do anything they want to achieve victory. We really want it to be competitive. Part of this is lane swapping. We definitely allow lane swapping, and I'm sure that has been misunderstood a little bit with the new meta. But lane swapping is 100% allowed. We're just not allowing position swapping. It's a very complicated rule that relies on trust between players on both teams and the LCUS officials. If the opposing team reaches out to the commissioner regarding a lane swap that you did that they feel is a position swap, penalty might possibly be enforced there, but we don't really see that happening.
And that's all about communication. Now, there is the ever-present question week in, week out. Why don't we have a rule for late starts? We do, and it's a pretty serious tardy penalty. So please check out the rule book. We keep it updated. I'm not going to address the specific rule in case it would be changed in the future, but we always will keep a rule for tardiness as we value our stream times.
Yeah. Another feedback was that we could improve our rule book by having it be a little bit more concise. When we were making the LCUS, we definitely started with the idea of copying a rulebook like the LCUS or the other tournaments that we were part of beforehand. But those rulebooks are hundreds of pages and extremely complicated. Our rulebook, we feel, is very concise, with it being easy to find the rules that affect you on your individual basis. However, we are completely open to any specific suggestions that you have on how to improve a rule. So let us know if you have any ideas on how to do that. Another question regarding the rulebook is that the tiebreak system should be a best of one and not the game time between the two teams that are tied. That's a great idea, but once again, we're looking to keep things moving and not using players' time. Imagine if you played the first set of the day and you had to wait until the third set to figure out if you had to play a tiebreaker match at midnight on a Sunday night before work or school the next day. That wouldn't be very player-friendly, but that's definitely a great suggestion, and we'll look into it a little bit more.
The last thing that we want to talk about in terms of the rules is the substitutes. This is a fairly emotional piece. We want players to have that high level of engagement, and substitutes are in place to allow, real life, the thing that we do when we're not playing League of Legends to happen. Sometimes that does happen. Uh, we've received some feedback, like, for example, we've had players say that you need to look at the level of a player needing a sub and the level of the sub, especially if it's last minute swap. And things such as what stops a player from calling a fake emergency to get out of losing their band. People believe that this stuff has happened. It's difficult for us to really make that call, and I hope that the player base, our viewers, future officials will remember compassion, and maybe the line between this is the game and you won't be salty to someone potentially having a real emergency. But with regard to sub penalties, which is the ultimate issue with this, in an ideal world, the substitute is a player of equal skill to the missing player, and really the largest penalty to the team with the sub is working with new players. In the past few splits, we've had full ban removals for teams that had subs, and that was met with extreme criticism. Most players seem to like how it's going currently. The reward for playing in the LCUS is playing in the LCUS. We reward with experience, and you get that experience through participating. Missing games should feel like its own punishment. You invest your time, you want to get that win. You missing games, your team is missing out on that aspect. So if you have to miss, emergencies happen, we completely understand. With the LCUS, we'll always endeavor to put the best sub in the best position for the team that needs the sub, with attention to the team that's playing against the sub team. Okay? Now, the other portion of this is we've had multiple people request dedicated subs. With the amount of players that sign up, and the way that we balance teams, it would be very resource intensive for us to have a dedicated sub for each team. To maintain the integrity of the balance process, each team would need like 5 subs with similar skill sets and stats, which is just very difficult to do on the level that we're on. Could something happen in the future? I don't know. It might be something that we can look into implementing, but at this time, it is just way too resource intensive to look into it. Situation.
Definitely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that pretty much wraps it up for the special episode of Let's Talk About the League. But just for one final word, we really appreciate all the feedback, suggestions, comments, criticisms, everything that you guys have suggested. The LCUS wouldn't be the same without any of you or any of your suggestions, and we're really looking to improve everything and fix any issues that are had there. The leagues are fun. We appreciate it. It sucks that we need to have a rule book at all, but it's really just to make things go even easier for everyone involved. We encourage you to look over the rule book as often as you'd like and let us know what questions that you have after you do so. But yeah, that's about it. Any final words, Sig?
No, I've been playing video games a wee lad on my mother's knee, and this is one of the best experiences in terms of video gaming that I think are out there, with regard to, it's not only about the video game, but the community that we've created. And some of the relationships that I've built through this, it's just been so great. And I really can't say that enough, that these rules, all this questions about what we're going to do in the future, it's all exciting because it's coming from you guys, and it is just so great to have everyone involved. So again, thank you so much.
Thanks again, everybody.